Going on? It's me, John D. Villarreal here, and we're getting ready for the show. It's going to be a great show. I've got my audio up a little bit. I think I was a little bit low last time. I'm trying a couple different things, so just let me know how it sounds over there. And let's just test where we're at here audio-wise.
That the company.
Okay, we still got a little bit of time here. A lot of fun stuff we're going to talk about this show. Can't wait. It's going to be great. So we're probably about a minute or two away from the air right now. Okay.
Well, trying.
All right, we're about a minute out here. Get ready. If you're watching this later, then just kind of fast forward, obviously. Let's test the audio.
84, low 82, heat.
Okay, weather, very close now, very close. A lot of stuff we're going to talk about. I also want to kind of follow up on some stuff we talked about last week, which should be good.
Tanya and
Here we go.
not attorney spokesman.
Are you ready for some?
Okay, very close.
Sell now.
Views and opinions of Genesis Communications, its management, staff, or advertisers. Welcome to the John Villarreal Show. Now, here's John.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's me, John D. Villarreal, here on Newstalk 1040 AM in the greater Tampa Bay area, Sarasota, Clearwater, St. Pete, Tampa, Wesley Chapel, Lakeland, Plant City, all kinds of places. And of course, we're live here on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Going to be joined by Paula Villarreal here very soon. There's so much to talk about today. It is August 14th. Back to school. The kids are back. Maybe not all of them, but certainly my child is. A lot of kids are. I mean, we're talking college now. We're talking, school, everything like that. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But there's so much to talk about political-wise here on Newstalk 1040 AM. It's unbelievable. I have so much to talk about. We had the Iowa State Fair. We had Governor Reynolds, Senator Ernst. We had Governor DeSantis there, of course. We had Vice President Pence there. And, of course, we had Donald Trump with the Trump plane flying in, coming in, and just to a almost a rock star type of reception. We've got things. I want to talk about the interview between CNN's Caitlin Collins and John Laura from the Trump legal team. So much to talk about. I also want to follow up with what I was talking about last week, because I think I talked about it a bit, but I think we need to lay it out a little bit more about relationships and the manosphere and all, and how I can't fully align with that. Or let me actually revise and extend that. Why I'm not where my differences are, where my critiques are, where I think there can be some improvements, where I think that there are some things that are, listen, as I said before, I don't want to have a bad soundbite here and get, sort of locked into something that I don't mean or anything like that. So I can't really say it very quickly, but let me try to highlight it. Again, a 50% solution is not a 100% solution. We've been in a situation now that this country, this world is in a very strange place, okay? And I think when you just throw away thousands of years or tens of thousands or millions of years of whatever it is of, whatever, history, interaction, whatever you want to call it, tradition, maybe that's, I don't know, then, it doesn't always work, right? And also I think that things need to work for everybody. Whether that's in a relationship, whether that's in a company, whether that's in a country, whatever it is. And that kind of speaks a little bit, and we're going to talk about this, the absolute hit songs and the stratospheric rise of Anthony Oliver with the hit song, Rich Men North of Richmond. I mean, it's just sweeping the nation and what that song means. Now, I grew up not that far. I understand that whole Appalachian thing. I mean, and it was put out by West Virginia Radio, I think. And my brother and I grew up like about 30 miles or less from the West Virginia border there in southwestern Pennsylvania. So we understand how the opioid crisis, not personally, obviously, but I mean, like what we've seen, the steel mills leave, coal miners, that was, I mean, like people went and they worked in the coal mines. They were farmers. We were 4-H and everything like that. The opioid epidemic has devastated those areas. Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Virginia, all kinds of different places like that. We have a Anthony Codevilla, the forgotten man. I mean, person, right? There's so many different things that are happening there that are really, really, Oliver Anthony, that are really troubling, and we can't just ignore these problems. And you want to talk about ignoring problems? Like I said, I don't want to set it up that way. Let me stop. Let me rephrase that. We have a natural disaster and devastation. A totally separate point. We're restarting. And our hearts and prayers and thoughts go out to the people of Hawaii. And I'm not one for hey, you have to show up, photo op, this and that, whatever. But there is a lot to be said. And, when I remember when the earthquake happened in San Francisco Bay Area, the bad one during the World Series, right? I wasn't there and I couldn't get a hold of my dad. And it was really, really, it was scary, right? A scary situation. I'm sure people, if they went through Hurricane Katrina, I've been through hurricanes, we've had hurricanes here in Florida, the East Palestine disaster. I mean, the people of Hawaii, I think it would be nice to have a lot more focus from this administration on what's going on out there. And I don't want to play politics with it. We're not going to do that here on the John D. Villarreal show. But I think some have made the comparison because now there's another push for more money for, foreign, what's going on in Ukraine. And I think it goes back to the same thing again with East Palestine. Like, what is the focus? And this goes back to Oliver Anthony with, Rich Men North of Richmond with a song. Like, what about the people that are, farming out there, or they're HVAC, or they're putting down roads, or they're in construction, or they're driving trucks, or we have another trucking company that looks like it's in trouble, at least, And I saw a viral clip that went out there, someone that had been with a company and I can't verify any, but I, was out there, right? And they were super upset. I get it. They lost their pension. It's gone. 30 years at a company and the pension is gone. I mean, how do you start over at that point? You were counting on that. So it's created, and I'll bring Paul in on this, and I'll just to get his quick comments, and I'll touch on, I want to, clean up some of the comments, not clean up, I want to say, I want to extend the conversation on some of the comments last week regarding relationships and manosphere and all that type of stuff, because I think that's going to be important, and I want to really finish the thought there because I think that's going to make a good point. Paul, you can't have a situation where people are overlooked and ignored. And we look at the phenomenon that is Donald Trump. And I've been saying for weeks, I've been saying for a year, but what have I been saying? I've been saying, hey, Governor DeSantis, I don't think it's going to work if you run against Donald Trump. I've been saying that. I was off the record. I was talking with venture capitalists and CEOs and executives, and they thought, oh, you John, pat me on the head. You don't know. And we're the big money. And said, you'll see in the donors. I told you, you guys are fools. You're fools. You don't understand what's going on. And then Mayor Suarez, is the dude even going to get into the debate? And look at that back and forth. And I don't want to I've said that there was no chance the guy was going to do anything on the presidential level. And some people have called him regional candidate. I think it's a citywide candidate, dude. And I'm not trying to, he's done some great things, but it's like, it's not about me saying, I told you so, because I did tell you so for years. And I remember when people were like, I just want to talk to Mayor Schwartz. Can you meet him? And it's like, dude, he's done some great stuff. Don't get me wrong. But I had serious misgivings and doubts. I told you that candidacy wasn't going to work. I had a lot of critiques about the Miami Tech Hub and what was going on there and the way it was going on. And I said, but most importantly, I didn't understand the political angle. I thought the moves he made were not transferable whatsoever to the national stage. Now, some of the things that Governor DeSantis was doing, obviously, as I said, best governor in the history of Florida, probably. Just phenomenal. And so his policies in some ways were. But I think he's gone all over the place. And this campaign has been rebooted again, it looks like, in my opinion. I'm not alleging any facts. I don't know. But there's been some changes in the campaign and whatnot. And in some respects, I do feel like he's taking control of the campaign a little bit, but I don't understand the moves out there. And I think it's concerning some donors from what I'm reading in the reports and stuff. And I just think that it's just over, dude. If he wants to, as I said, if he wants to be a hero, he gets out. But none of these candidates, I think, has a path. And now they're talking about maybe bringing in, Governor Youngkin and Fox News. Fox News, what are you doing, Fox News? It's just, listen, here's the bottom line, and we'll get to this. I'll bring in Paul here in 1 second. The Republicans cannot win without Donald Trump. That's it. Period. End of story. That's where it is. You may like it. You may not like it. You may wish for it to be different. I'm saying, in my opinion, as an analyst here, as a talk show host, that's where it's at. Now, if you can't accept that, and if you're someone who thinks, John, you're a Trumper and this and that, whatever. Okay, you've been wrong every step of the way. This is like with the whole, things that have been going on for the last 3, 4, 5 years. How many things have we seen that have been wrong? All the people that said, the Hunter Biden lap, that's disinformation. Where are we at now, player? Where are we at now? Now we'll talk about that with the whole special counsel thing. And there's so much that's going on here. I seriously could do a show for 4 or 5 hours. Paul, let's bring you in right here. We put a lot of things on the table right now. Bring us up to speed. You're out there hot on Twitter. You've got a lot of followers. You're gaining people. Your people are seeing your tweets a lot. And I'm good. Before the end, don't go too long, because I do want to finish up the thing on the relationship thing before we get to the next segment. But bring me up to speed on what's going on out there right now. It's been a big week.
Yeah, look, there's a ton of things going on this week. I think you mentioned the Iowa State Fair. That's probably the biggest political thing that's taken place in this last 7 days. And
no doubt,
as you mentioned, President Trump had a huge impact there. He just kind of came in. He brought 9 congressmen from Florida, and he also had Congressman Wesley Hunt of Texas come in. So he had 10 congressmen with him. Most of them were from Florida to kind of show his strength against Florida Governor DeSantis, of course. And also there was former interim Attorney General Matt Whitaker, who is from Iowa, who is from Des Moines, which is where the fair is.
I didn't know that.
So he came in and was, yeah, he is. And then, that's right, so he spoke briefly. Trump did a quick speech. Speech was only 20 minutes, which, is nothing for him. And during that period of time, I think every congressman also spoke for a minute to fire up the crowd. But the whole thing was just appearing there. If you're going to do well in Iowa, you need to appear at that event. Pretty much everybody understands that politically. So he came in, he walked the grounds, he talked to people, he shook hands, everything. And the response was just enormous. It was overwhelming. I just couldn't believe it. And there was an event that he had to cancel, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago. And he had to cancel it in Iowa because there was a tornado warning.
Right. Remember that.
And DeSantis, remember that? And DeSantis was there in the same day, but he was in a different part of the state that did not have a tornado warning. So he did his event, but Trump canceled his event. And the DeSantis campaign kind of trolled Trump, like, well, you had to cancel your event because no people were coming, that type of thing. Well, that was totally put to bed after the Iowa State Fair appearance. I mean, there were thousands of people there just like all over him. And it was just completely successful. There were Trump supporters basically heckling DeSantis in various places, almost to the extent that Governor Kim Reynolds had to defend DeSantis and basically tell people, hey, be nice to him, something like this. And one of the things, one of the contrast videos going around was, here's DeSantis, or here's President Trump with 1,000 people in front of him, like swarming him. And here's Governor DeSantis doing this little, it's something with eggs, like an egg, I don't
custard
know,
thing, or like there's some frying, there's some corn stuff. There's all kinds of little booths with like food stuff, corn dogs, different things like that going on, right? So Governor DeSantis is trying to have a moment and be a person of the people and get out there and make some food and nobody, and basically what Paul's saying, and I'll let you keep going here, nobody cares. And here comes Trump, and like you've got throngs and throngs of people that all are following him and trying to get a MAGA hat sign and everything like that. It's almost like if you went to a party, right? And you're at college, and there's a college party, and the college quarterback is there, or something like that, and then in comes Tom Brady, and nobody cares about the college quarterback. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And of course, the reports the day after were, DeSantis overshadowed. Trump trolls DeSantis because the Trump team had a airplane flying over the state fair with the flag behind it that says "Be likable, Ron." I mean, just all kinds of stuff. I think there was so much frustration from the DeSantis team that they got into a verbal, shouting match with the Trump team. So just a whole bunch of stuff. And it was, even though Governor Kim Reynolds and Senator Joni Ernst, who have not formally endorsed anybody in the race, but they both seem to be leaning towards DeSantis. They were both there and doing different events with DeSantis. Joni Ernst was walking around the fairgrounds with him. Kim Reynolds was doing some little sit-down talking thing with him. It didn't matter. Trump just totally took over the event for the amount of time that he was there. And it's just, people said it was one of the biggest crowds they've ever seen at the fair. And it was, again, for Trump, it was a total victory. I mean, and that was probably the largest political thing that's taken place in the last 7 days.
Well, right, and the thing of it is this is in the 99 counties and stuff. Listen, it's great. I'm all for everyone. And again, I've run campaigns. I've consulted with serious campaigns, U.S. Senate campaigns, stuff like that. I'm so sick of the 99 counties, and we got to go to this place in New Hampshire and that place of Iowa and all this stuff. Like nothing against anybody, okay? But I'm sorry, that is not as important as the absolutely super serious issues that we are dealing with as a nation and as a globe right now. We cannot be picking a presidential candidate based upon how many counties you've been to in Iowa and things like that. That's just not going to fly right now. Okay, nobody cares about that, and that's what Oliver Anthony is talking about, in my opinion. It's part of it in his song, right? Rich Men North of Richmond. The complete disconnect between the political class, the ruling class, if you will, the elites, and regular people out there. So it doesn't matter who endorses you, although I do have to say that this Florida congressional delegation is fantastic. And I love Congressman Byron Donalds out there, and Congressperson Anna Paulina Luna is, and I think my own Congressman Stube over here is doing some stuff. I think he may have filed impeachment papers. There's different things going on right there, no doubt about it. Now, I don't know if I have enough time. Let's pause that for it. We're going to talk about all that, and there's so much more in this show here today. But I also want to talk about it and sort of finish the thought, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all of it done right now, about this whole thing with relationships and the manosphere and things like that, right? And it basically was to this extent. And I'm going to super shorthand this. Right. And I may get it wrong, but I just have to just super shorthand this. It's basically, the idea is this, look, relationships right now are all messed up, and the laws and stuff and everything, a lot of things are, and I'm not giving any advice, etc. like that. I'm a talk show host, are against men. Right. whether it's divorce laws, custody, child, all these types of things, right? And that a lot of people are posting stuff out there like, hey, things are all messed up now, and modern dating is just terrible, and it's hard to find and I think, you know, both sides are, you know, a lot of people are posting like, hey, how do I find a good relationship? And I've thought about this and talked about this, and I got lucky to have married a phenomenal wife, and we've talked about that a little bit, and I'll talk about that some more. And I'm not saying, you know, and again, it's about choices. I'm not saying that my life's perfect. No one's life is perfect, right? But it's about choices. I'm going to get into that in a second. And, you know, and I've seen a lot of different things, and I've been around some super successful people, and I've seen what I think works and what I think doesn't work. And the shorthand from, I think, and I may be getting this wrong, and I get Paul's thoughts either at the end of this break or probably, you know, next break. The shorthand of the manosphere thing is, look, things used to be traditional. Now men are sort of reduced to their wallets. You know, men have no rights. It's hard to, you know, the studies are that women initiate 80% of the divorces out there. And if they're college educated, it's 90% of divorces out there, and blah, blah. And I haven't verified those statistics. I have not verified that data, but that's out there. Those talking points are out there. Okay. And meanwhile, we also know that, like, you know, raising children in single parent households are obviously in this economy is very, very tough. And raising children in single parent households are not good for the children. Okay, so then ask yourself, well, why are we getting married? What are relationships about? Let alone the religious implications of values and you know, long-term studies of happiness and you live longer if you're married and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so and Paul and our family, you know, Paul and I, our children are divorced and all that type of stuff. Now, a couple of the things I wanted to lay on that, and I can do a whole show on this, and I've thought about, hey, I really should post a lot of content on YouTube, and probably it would probably do really well because a lot of people are hungry for information and news you can use on this. But I mean, you know, this is Newstalk 1040 AM right here, and we have to talk about news and different things like that, although we will weave some of these things in. So, but I wanted to put these things in here, and here's my disagreements. This is where some of the things, not all of it, but some of the things where I'm sort of hesitant with the manosphere, if you will. And there's people no less than Jedediah Bila and Just Pearl and Fresh and Fit and all kinds of different people, and obviously, you know, some bigger names out there that are, you know, Jordan Peterson, et cetera, like Dr. Jordan Peterson, that are talking about this. But here's some of my disagreements with the manosphere. And I'm not saying any of these specific people. I'm just saying what I observe out there. So I may be wrong on this. This is generally of the manosphere, not any specific person. In my opinion, it places too much emphasis on looks and like numbers of partners and stuff like that prior to marriage and all that. I just think that's very short-sighted, and I'm for sure going to have to talk about this in the next segment as well. And I'll tell the story a little bit more about my wife. I can be careful. She might be coming here. She doesn't want me talking too much, so I'll be a little careful on that. And I understand the research on, you know, binding and number of partners and all that stuff, but to me, that's not the point, right? Now, and here's what I mean by that. Men don't like to be reduced to their wallets, right? And so we don't want to do that to women in a different way, right? I do think that it's more of, I think I phrased it pretty well last time, which is more of, and again, I'm not a biologist. I'm not a psychologist. I can't speak to that type of stuff. I have, you know, heard or seen some of the research out there. I get that, and I'm not dismissing that. But I think that there's more of a point that, like I said before, like there's more of the superficiality and the disposable nature of things to you know, whether it's jobs, whether it's people, any relationships, right? Friendships, family, any, you know, when you start acting like these things are disposable, then that's a big problem, right? And I think that's where you can't say that you have all the options in the world, and if it's not working right now, and you can't be very, to use political theory language, utilitarian. Like it has to work for me right now, but hey, I want you. Same thing, and we've seen this in jobs, right? With corporate America, you know, you need to produce right now. It's what you're doing for me right now. But hey, stay with the company. If the company has a bad quarter, bad month, if you don't make your commissions, if you don't make the money, hey, you need to stay here. You need to be loyal. It has to be mutual. There has to be mutuality, right? It can't just be one way. We're definitely gonna have to pick this up next segment. And so, what I don't like is, well, I'll say this. I've been around super successful people, and I've looked at a lot of these men, that married or dated 9s, 10s, heck, 11s. I mean, I can't even tell you the kind of people I've been around, and men and women and stuff like that. And these men got ruined in divorce and breakups. Okay, they had the trophy wives and the girlfriends, and some of these women went to the gym and shopped all day, and they still partied. And when these relationships were over, these men got destroyed. Not every single one of them, but a lot of them. And so I think, chasing just the looks, this and that, whatever, I think that's a recipe for a disaster. I'm going to talk more about this on the other side of the break, and we're definitely going to get into all the other news talk and everything like that. But I want to finish these thoughts here. You're listening to the John D. Villarreal Show here on Newstalk AM, 1040 AM, Greater Tampa Bay Area, and live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. We'll be right back at you.
Hi, this is Dave Anthony from the Fox News Rundown. Heard here weekday mornings 5 to 6 and then again 8 to 9 on Newstalk 1040. Each morning, I'm joined by Mike Emanuel, Lisa Brady, Jessica Rosen.
Hang in there. We'll be back in about 4 or 5 minutes.
Fox Sports.
Hey, what's going on? Greater Tampa Bay area, me, John D. Villarreal. I'm back. You're listening to the John D. Villarreal Show here on Newstalk 1040 AM, Greater Tampa Bay area, and live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. We're joined by Paula Villarreal. We're talking about so many different things. Lot that has happened. There's so much that has happened, okay? With the Iowa State Fair, special counsel, there may be a Trump indictment in Georgia. There's just so many things that are happening. We're going to talk about that. But I want to continue this conversation in regards to relationships because I touched on it last week, and I just want to make a few points and where and why I disagree with some of the manosphere stuff out there. But there overall, I mean, there's definitely good points out there. I agree with the idea that relationships in general, or the relationship market maybe, or the messaging, or whatever you want to say, is pretty much broken. I do agree that, you know, very hard leftist messages have definitely helped mess that up. I do also, though, believe that there's good ideas. This is part of my theory of life and stuff like that, which is to say it's not that like, oh, you meet in the middle and you know, purple strategies and all that. It's more of, I think that we make progress. I think that you know, we're for peace, love, freedom, opportunity, liberty for everybody, right? And if now I have a 6-year-old daughter, you know, just turned 6 recently, and if she wants to be president or be an astronaut or fly to the moon, whatever she wants to do, I'm all for her. I'm all in support of that, right? And I think a lot of people are. So I think we make progress. This is not about going back to the 1950s or 1930s or 1800s or 60s. It's not about that, but it is about that, like, you know, and maybe this is a bad analogy, but there's a certain amount of sort of biology with things and stuff. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get myself in trouble here or canceled or whatever, but if you look at, you know, I don't know. I mean, you pick any animal out there or something like that. I mean, the way that they operate is probably very similar to the way that they were operating, like, you know, a million years ago, 100,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. And you may say, well, John, we're different. Okay, but there's jobs to do there's biology, right? We're creatures, we're animals, we're alive. There's biology, and there's also jobs to do within a family or within, you know, there's raising kids, there's raising the young, there's the next generation, there's all that type of stuff. There's jobs to do in a marriage. And that shouldn't be like shocking or revolutionary for anybody, right? I mean, that's why we're all here and stuff. Now, you may say like, well, look, the way things were done before, there was a lot of problems and we had a long way to go, and we have a long way to go. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Absolutely. And I'm all for that. So it's how do you look at these things? So let's go back. And again, I'm speaking extremely generally, and if I need to revise and extend anything, then I will. And I'm trying to speak fast here for the purposes of breezing through this, you know, to get to other things for News Talk 1040 audience. But we have to talk about this, and some of this is just so commonsensical, and we've just lost common sense, and we just get lost in all these different things, whether it's pronoun, whatever it is, you know. And I'm not against anybody. We're all for everybody. But you have to think about what works. Let's put it this way. Let's analogize this to work, because we're live on LinkedIn, right? And in working, you're seeing everything from quiet quitting, lazy jobs, all this types of stuff. Like, you can't expect to get $250,000 for a job you don't physically show up. I mean, maybe the 1 or 2, you know, maybe the 0.1%, the 1%, but you know, half the country can't have jobs that are going to pay $250,000. You don't have to show up for it. You can take a walk when you want to. You can go get your massage. You know, you just do barely enough and all that type of stuff. And then if you show up and you do something, then that's great. That's not sustainable. nobody's going to pay you to do that for long. So surprise, surprise. Doesn't matter who you voted for, what your politics are, whatever. It doesn't make sense. Similarly, if you're in a relationship and you expect someone's going to pay for everything and you're going to have a glamorous lifestyle and be jet setting and never have to work and have a nanny and do and whatever it is, and maybe, you know, if you polled 100 people, you know, out there, they'd maybe put you at a 7 and you don't have a college education and you're not working and all this. Chances are that's not a realistic expectation, and you expect your husband to be 6'5" and super ripped and have $100 million in the bank. Flip it the other way. If all you do is you make 150 grand and you're a sort of an average looking dude and whatever, and you know, you don't have a degree and all that, and you're not that interesting, and your personality is terrible, and you're not, you know, being the best that you can be in a relationship, then don't expect that you're going to marry a nuclear physicist who looks like Gisele Bündchen, who's going to stay, you know, have 5 kids with you and stay married for 50 years. This is just common sense, right? And so what I don't like, okay, I don't, both sides annoy me to some degree, right? On the one hand, because I've been through so many relationships, I've seen so many relationships, I've seen people with no money that stay together, I've seen people with crazy money and celebrity that don't stay together. I went through the list last week of all the very wealthy, famous, successful men that were all divorced and stuff like, I mean, it's craziness. So no one's immune from this. Everybody's, I mean, that's what we're all human beings, right? We all have this I hate all this focus on differences because we are so much, I mean, we're all human. We're the same, dude. I mean, this is what's so crazy about all this. And so that now I'm going to start talking like Senator Scott, who's great. But he's right, and Martin Luther King is right, and everything like that. I don't want to get distracted. I mean, I'm talking about relationships right now, but it is a similar type of thing here, you know. And that is, look, it's. I don't like the people that are all about, hey, you know, if you just check out these boxes and you make your money, if you're a man, you make your money, you're successful, and you look good, this and that, whatever, then you can basically get whatever you want. You know, that's ridiculous. And I'll get to that in a second. And also, what do you want, right? Because, and then I'll get to that, and how I think that there's a real misfocus on that. The other side of it is, you know, I think the other side, on the other hand, it's like, oh, it's just about your personality, John. If you're a nice guy, John, and you bring her flowers, and if you're and just listen, and you everything, then it's gonna be perfect. But don't worry, you don't have to be in shape. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about anything. Craziness. I get into this discussion at home sometimes, whatever like that. And listen, my wife is tough, like you have no idea, which is great. I love that, right? But I have to explain, like, look, if the money doesn't, I mean, I understand we have all these priorities, but if the money doesn't work, nothing works. So there are jobs to do in a relationship. There are jobs to do in a marriage. There are things that you're looking for in a partner. And people are like, oh, the personality. Well, the first thing you see is looks. I mean, we just got to be honest about certain things, right? You know, unless you're introduced by family. I mean, there's different stories. There's different things. And quite frankly, here in the West, we do the romantic, you know, relationships and marriage and all this type of stuff. Other places do other things. And quite frankly, long term, some other models out there, systems, are more successful in terms of keeping people. And you may say, well, they're not. I mean, you can. I don't know. There's different data on different things, but I mean, just staying together, having the family stay together, and having the kids in a stable family is a huge win. That is the point. We get caught up in people's feelings and how do I feel, and I'm happy and I'm not happy today, this and that, whatever, moment to moment, minute to minute. Hey, player, you're not supposed to be happy every single day of your life, every single minute of your life. Welcome to life. Who sold us this bill of goods? Is it Hollywood? Is it Madison Avenue? So this is what I'm saying. So I just want to lay some of that out there. I mean, people are just confused, dude. And maybe that's just my experience as a 4-time national champion in powerlifting and stuff like that. I mean, my sport was basically a solo sport. It involved massive amounts of pain and work. Didn't really get paid for it, right? Not directly. I trained pro athletes and stuff like that and other elite athletes. But it's tough, right? And so, let's get back to this. Right? There's just so much to talk about here. I'm trying to do the best job that I can, but there's just so much to talk about here. I'm trying to hit it all very quickly here and cover a bunch of stuff. And so getting back to this. So, the manosphere kind of, to my feeling is it kind of talks about like leverage of your partner due to your success. That's not real and that's not stable. Like, okay, there's 3 6s. You have to be over 6 foot tall and you have to have a 6-pack abs. You have to make 6 figures. Okay, well, a lot of people aren't going to make 6 figures when they're retired. I mean, and even Peyton Manning was the one that says if you're over, I can't remember what it was, 25 or 30 years old, and you have a 6-pack, it's because you don't have a real job or something like that. Like, it's just, you just have to be realistic about certain things. Sometimes my wife, it's like, where's my champion? She'll talk to me. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me, dude? Like, my last national championship was almost 20 years ago. Like, I mean, stop. Like, I'm doing really well for the whole thing. But anyway, it is what it is. And what I said is there are jobs to do in a successful marriage. And I don't think you earn a good relationship or a husband or a wife in that way. It's just like, you can't expect, you're not going to look at 50 the way you looked at 20, any of us, right? Well, I look better. Okay, maybe you do, right? There's the outliers, but I mean, there's like as I said in one of the Sylvester Stallone movies, Father Time is undefeated. It could be Mother Time, it could be anyone, it doesn't matter. Time is undefeated. That's the only thing that we're sure of at this point. Who knows? Who knows what they're working on in Silicon Valley or anywhere else? But I mean, if you're here, we've all been born, and at some point we're all going to die. That's what we know, right? So far. And what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish in relationships? So I can just tell you where I'm coming from, right? And again, I've seen so many successful men, great looking men way taller than me and stuff like that, get ruined. They were dating 9s, 10s, 11s. I mean, actresses, models, doctors, all kinds of different, any kind of level of success that you want to talk about, but definitely like had the quote unquote trophy wives and trophy girlfriends, and they got destroyed in breakups and divorces and everything. And it wasn't good for the kids. And so to me, in the end, it's about values and commitment. Oh, John, you're kind of like going soft. No, dude, you have to keep your eye on what it's really about. And I'll bring Paul in here for his comments here in a little bit. And I look at it, like when I looked at Salma, and I could be careful. I asked her if she wanted to be on the show. She's like, no, and she doesn't, that's not what she's about. But that's interesting, right? I mean, I think both sides have good points, right? Salma doesn't have maybe she, I don't know, but it's like she doesn't really have an Instagram. She doesn't have any of this. She barely has a LinkedIn. She doesn't do all that type of stuff, right? There's no girls' nights out. I'm not criticizing anybody else. I'm just saying like that's not even a thing. It's not even thought about as a thing, right? She's all about family, religion, success. That's it, right? I married Salma. I married my wife not for her looks. I'm not saying, I love my wife, everything like that. But it wasn't like if I wanted to go after that 10 or something like that, I could have done that, dude. I had a lot of stuff. I had a lot of stuff cooking but I'm like, look, I wanted someone who, and this is where I seriously disagree with the manosphere stuff of, men don't care how successful you are. Men don't care what your degrees are. I totally disagree. I do, because I'm a super genius. I want someone I can talk to, as I'm talking to the great audience here right here in Newstalk 1040 AM. And everyone should feel that way. Do you understand? I've seen men that are super successful. They're running companies, they're CEOs, they're entrepreneurs. This is what I don't get. They're so successful, and then they're dating someone that has a box of rocks, basically, that just doesn't care. Didn't go to school, doesn't care, isn't into that. And now I'm not saying that school's everything. You have to have degrees. I'm not saying you can't be smart if you don't. I'm not saying that. I want to be very clear about that. I'm not saying that. If you're a stay-at-home mom, fantastic. If you're a PhD, fantastic. Whatever you want to do is phenomenal. And I am in, peace, love, freedom, opportunity, liberty, equality for everybody. And I respect everybody. What I'm saying is, in life, there are choices. There are trade-offs, right? Yeah, I was a 4-time national champion. Guess what? I didn't go to a lot of parties. I didn't go on a lot of vacations. I have a lot of injuries. You know what I mean? Like, there's trade-offs. It's not all upside. It doesn't work that way. So having gone through, so yes, I respect someone who's a doctor, as my wife is, in Israel. I respect someone who is a lawyer. I respect someone who's a PhD. I respect someone who's a great journalist. I respect someone who's an academic. It's helpful to a family to make more money. At the same time, if both parents are gone, what about the kids? These are balances. And the kids have to come first. This is common sense. So I married Salma not for her looks. I married Salma because obviously has to be a level of, for me, there's a level of attraction there and everything like that. And I'm not saying that, and she has a very, I don't want to sit here and analyze my wife on I don't think that's fair to her. And I was fairly ambivalent about her past. That wasn't a big deal to me. Although, interestingly enough, I pretty much was the first guy that she dated. And I'll just leave it at that. So I can't prove a negative how I would have felt had it been different, but I obviously, had dated and had dated women that didn't have that kind of situation. No, I dated and married my wife because her values are so rock solid, and was all about family and the values that I grew up with, that I believed in, and she's super smart, and she's super driven, and she's all about family. And she's like, we're never going to get divorced. And I'm like, and I knew that if something happened to me, my children, and right now child, would be okay. And that's the point. This is a marriage. This is a relationship. This is if you're a superstar, why would you want someone that's not on your level? What's really important? What are you going to want? Not today. This is the problem, is people are too short-sighted, in my opinion. They don't plan. They don't look for it. Not today, player, but what are you going to want 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? When maybe you don't have the same mobility, when the kids are older. Or having seen the devastation of divorce, I wanted someone that I knew was solid. I wanted someone that had the horsepower upstairs. I wanted someone that I could really build a serious life with. What kind of mom do you want for your children? What kind of dad do you want for your children? What kind of role model? So I wanted the best wife that I could get, and the best for my children, in the most stable relationship. Even if it could be harder time, because guess what? You're not going to have leverage over a superstar husband or wife or anything like that. Why would you even want that? How is that really actualizing yourself? The best teachers that you had were the hardest teachers. We all know that. Or drill instructor or coach or whatever it is. Leverage in a relationship is stupid, in my opinion. That is missing the point. So these are some points where I really disagreed with the whole manosphere stuff. I could go on. There's a lot more to talk about there. I do want to get to the news talk stuff, and I want to bring Paul back in this conversation. Paul, obviously you're very close to the situation here, and maybe I'm a little too close. But what do you have to say about that? You've got your own thoughts, I'm sure.
Yeah, look, as far as the manosphere, and again, we talked last week about what it is and everything, and I think the manosphere exists for what you said earlier, which there's a lot of confusion, and maybe people aren't sure with the changing, evolving roles and different way that society is going. I think there's a lot of young men who feel like, well, what do I do? How do I act? And they look to some of these influencers on the internet to get information, to try to get some direction. But what you said, I definitely agree with, which is I think a lot of these manosphere figures they're approaching these relationship discussions in too much of a transactional way. And it's not about transaction, as you said. It's
That's
not
the word.
about
Good word.
leverage.
Keep going with that. That's a good go.
Yeah, it's not about leverage. It's not about 2 + 3 = 5. It's beyond that. It's about feelings. It's about emotions. It's about values. It's about future planning. As you said, we talked about this also last week. If you only look at things like that, if you only look at transactions, and if you only look at your own self-interest, and as we mentioned last week, you end up with people who are very unhappy 15 years down the road when they listen to that right now. And we mentioned, a specific author at a paper who, they're not happy now because they went with that flow, and maybe they didn't make the best choices. So as you said, you have a child, and that matters. And what are things going to be for her? What if you do have a breakup? What if something happens to you? What if something happens to your wife? And I agree with you that I think that the appeal for both of you to the other was values being on the same kind of mental plane. And I think it's worked great. And like you said, because you both are intelligent and driven, you do knock heads a lot. Whereas you said, if you're some rich guy and you go with some, quote unquote trophy wife, yeah, she might do everything you say, whatever like that, but there's no engagement there. She also might leave you whenever, because there's no attachment. You're just, your wallet and she's the thing, the pretty thing on your arm. That doesn't work. And we've all known people like that.
Oh, absolutely.
I definitely have known
It's
people
like if you're in a
just as
company.
you have.
Let me just say this super quick. It's like if you're in a company, we're here live on LinkedIn. Do you want a bunch of people around you that are going to tell you that everything you do is great, a bunch of yes people? How is that going to be good for your company? Do you really think that's going to be good for your company? You think that's going to work out in the long term? You think you're always going to show me the person who's 100% right 100% of the time. They don't exist, player. It's not going to work like that. You're crazy. What do you want? People are delusional out there. So it's like you said, it's not an equation, and one size doesn't fit all. Because guess what? I know people that are scientists that or I've read stories that they're married, and one's over here in one part of the world, the other's in the other part of the world. They're both doing their scientific stuff, and they're perfectly happy. It works for them. They don't even see each other that much, but that's their world. Or other people that they go to Renaissance fairs together and stuff like that. So it's a relationship. And again, I don't need a woman, or I don't need a man, or I don't need anyone. Or why would you want a relationship if you don't need anybody? Like, this is people, like, they just have to stop with this stuff. It doesn't make any sense. And once again, if we're not building for the next generation, the children, what are you doing? So I just had those disagreements. I wanted to put cap on that. Paul, any final, and hopefully that makes it more. And then maybe we'll talk about this more. Maybe I'll do more videos on YouTube. Maybe we'll talk about how it works and all that type of stuff. Any final thoughts you have, Paul, before the next break? And we'll talk about the news talk stuff in the next hour, obviously.
Yeah, look, we're in an age of instant gratification and click.
Right.
You're one click away from anything you want, and sometimes you have to have the delayed gratification and think for the future.
That's what I think it is. I think it's superficiality, and I think it's a lack of sophistication and a lack of people don't want to put in the hard work. So I'm all for figuring out a better mousetrap and being, more efficient. I'm all about that. But you also, anything good takes work. Period. End of story. Especially our relationships. Okay. So that's what it is. All right. Hey, listen, this is so great. I love it. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. Next hour, all about the Iowa Fair 2024, everything like that. Trump talk, everything. Stay tuned right here on Newstalk 1040 AM. Greater Tampa area and live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. You're listening to John D. Villarreal on the John D. Villarreal Show. See you in a bit.
1040 Tampa Bay.
Getting ready to go back.
Advisories in effect.
We'll talk, may have a couple more things to say about the last hour subject, but we're going to get right into the news talk stuff here.
Probably. HBO.
Of the upcoming auto and motorcycle.
Getting ready.
Oh, 7 receipts to
Hey, what's going on, Tampa Bay Area News Talk 1040 audience? Greater Tampa Bay Area, everywhere from Clearwater, St. Pete, downtown Tampa, Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakeland, Wesley Chapel, Plant City. Love it. We're right here. We're right here. And we're right here live on News Talk 1040. And we're talking about John D. Villarreal on John D. Villarreal Show. We're also live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And we're talking about a lot of different things. We were talking about relationships. We've been talking about Trump, Iowa, 2024. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's common sense, right? What do you want your life to be about? You know, how do you do things the right way? How do you make the right relationship choices? There's so much stuff on the table. I mean, let's listen to Riley Gaines on the radio today with Brian Kilmeade. I mean, everything's just up in the air on so many different things. And then we talk about Oliver Anthony and this song, Rich Men North of Richmond. I mean, it's so crazy, all right? I mean, there's so much stuff going on here. So let's get right into it. And let's bring in Paul right here. And let's talk about, Paul, 2024. You're big on Twitter. And I'll lay it out here in a second. But let me have your take on where are we at right now with polls, donors, the debate, everything like that with the election for 2024, because we had this big thing in Iowa where Trump came in and basically just totally took over and showed what he's all about. We have these things that are happening with the whole special counsel and everything that just got appointed. That's so crazy. There's been a lot of controversy about that, in my opinion. But let's just talk about where we are with 2024, and maybe you can talk a little bit about Oliver Anthony as well.
Yeah, well, just talking about the political stuff. I mean, the Washington Post put out an article today, and they spoke with 30 people in Florida and Washington, and essentially the crux of the article is that the people that knew Governor DeSantis actually had lower expectations of what he'd be able to do with his candidacy than the average person. So they're already the media's already kind of writing him off in a certain respect. Now, that's not the case, of course, but he is struggling, and I think that people recognize that. In fact, a poll came out today. I think the agency is Kaplan, and he was in third place behind Ramaswamy. Trump is doing great, of course, except for all the legal stuff. And based upon things I've seen on Twitter from people who would know, apparently the strategy from DeSantis is to kind of be there waiting if these legal matters consume Trump. And that seems to be the strategy. Have the second most amount of delegates, and then you can kind of step in there. Right now, he's having so much of a problem that I think that people are starting to look around for other people. And I know that the Murdoch conglomerate, like Fox News, New York Post, Wall Street Journal, they seem to be, at this point in time, starting to promote Glenn Youngkin, Governor Youngkin of Virginia. In fact, Miranda Devine, who is one of the top reporters for the New York Post, she appears on Fox all the time, she had a long profile of Youngkin in today's New York Post, basically saying like he's doing great for Virginia and for America. So they're starting to promote.
Yeah, Governor Youngkin's great, but I mean, I'm so tired of this governor strategy. Like the idea that someone knew that we've got the replacement's going to come in and catch fire in the Republican. Like, dude, it's pretty much over. Do you realize that we're getting close to September now? September, October, November, December, and then guess what? Iowa caucus. I mean, it's on, dude. You have four months to get name ID, 4 months to get your campaign going, 4 months to move in the poll. Like, are you out of your mind? They can't even get into debates. Like who comes up with this stuff, Paul? It's just desperation to me.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And look, nothing against Governor Youngkin. I think Governor Youngkin is hesitant to get in because, look, you see what's happened to Governor DeSantis. And why do that to yourself?
Well,
and
that's the thing.
Look,
if Governor DeSantis was seen as a superstar and was a superstar, like 9 months ago, you know what I mean? And if Governor DeSantis, if Trump hasn't even really turned it up yet, in my opinion, on DeSantis. If Trump can do this to DeSantis, you don't want to do this because there's people that are saying now, Paul, they're speculating that maybe Governor DeSantis kind of hurt his chances in his political capital for 2028. Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, look, there's plenty of people who feel that. I don't think there's any question about it. And I think there's a significant amount of the MAGA base of the Republican Party that is extremely unhappy with Governor DeSantis now. And I don't know if he's going to be able to win them back. And if you don't have that group, you certainly probably can't win a general election, and you might not even be able to win the primary.
Well, let's talk about this. And I want to focus you for a second here. I don't want to get people thinking, listen, we love Governor DeSantis. Have done, politically, of course, we've done, but with tremendous criticisms too, as we've seen here. And so I'm not saying I think all of it's true. I think he's been the best governor ever for Florida at a critical time. At the same time, I think there's been mistakes in the team. I think there's been mistakes in the campaign. I think there's been mistakes politically. I didn't understand why you're going so hard right on the social issues and then left on or corporate, if you will, on the economic issues from Trump. I've had lots of criticisms, and I think it was a major criticism was to get into the 2024 campaign and run against Trump. I think these are all mistakes, and I think the optics are really bad, as Paul's saying that some people are seeing it. It feels like, not allege anything, but it feels like you're just waiting for Trump to get wiped out, maybe, or let me put it this way. I'll put it as a question. Are you waiting for Trump to get removed from potentially for these legal things, and then you step in? It just seems unseemly. The whole thing isn't cool. Because here's what I want to focus you on, Paul, and where I want to get your reaction to it. I don't have a problem with people, as I said, with people running and getting their message out there and getting the name ID out there and all that type of stuff. But it has to be in the context of the larger picture, which we're going to focus on. And it has to be, I understand the campaign things happen, but I will say kind of a positive. I'm not able to, let's put a pause on this because I'm not able to fully articulate this exactly the way I want to. And I want to be very precise on how I want to say this. But let me put it this way, as a shorthand. Again, that's some of the downsides of being a super genius. Like, I can see things before I can fully articulate. The way Vivek Ramaswamy, is totally different than the way Governor DeSantis is running his campaign. I have no issue with the way Vivek is running his campaign, right? Because it's speaking to the issues. It's another voice speaking to the issues out there of the moment that are important to voters. Different than some other people like let's take a Governor Christie. Well, are you going to vote for someone who is out on bail? You're making this into a personal thing. It's not like, and I'm not saying like you can't, this is an important election. This is the point. And when we look at the Trump phenomenon and who can win, and 70% of the people saying that they're going to vote for Trump or something like that, or you have a stat here, polling that I want you to talk about that we talked about before.
Yeah.
But what do you think, when you boil it all down, what do you think the 2024 election, and you look at Oliver Anthony, the song, and all these things, because it's all the similar stuff, right? Whether it's Riley Gaines, whether it's Vivek on the Breakfast Club, whether it's the mainstream media and the Hunter Biden stuff. What do you see as the overarching theme of 2024? What do people care about right now, and what are they voting? What do you think that they're going to vote on based on the polls, Paul?
Yeah, and I think we might be able to talk about Oliver Anthony in the next segment, but I think people are just fed up with things. They're fed up with kind of like the administrative state,
right?
Whether it's going after President Trump or not, sending all this money to Ukraine whenever people need money here. I think people are just, we've talked about this off air. You have people like James Comey or Alexander Vindman, these people who are so it should be kind of like, just bureaucrats that we don't know about, becoming these kind of they're trying to take on the president. I don't think people want that. And so the administrative state seems to be kind of becoming a little bit out of proportion, I think. And I think people feel that. Also, this is a little bit on Oliver Anthony, people feel alienated. They just feel like things are changing in ways they don't necessarily like, and they're confused. They're unhappy with things where things are, and so I think this election coming up is going to be a lot about a referendum on Biden, and it's going to be a lot about a referendum of where the government and administrative state is. And I know that if President Trump is the nominee, they're going to try to make it a choice election. Do you want this guy with the legal problems, or do you want President Biden, who doesn't have all that? And so that's would be the Democratic strategy. But I don't know if that's going to work. One thing I've found a lot in doing stuff about Trump is he is, and this is anecdotal, but it's also backed up with polling research, he is gaining more and more support from people of color voters, from minority voters.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of it has to do with how much he's being persecuted by the justice system.
Well, that's what's really interesting, because I think there's a lot of things I want to put on the table. I don't know if I can do it fast enough. There's things. You have to have a situation and a system that work for everyone. And no less than Laura Ingraham was mentioning something, and I'm not saying that, but I know people that know her. How about that went to law school with her and all that type of, again, we're one or two levels below the really big time here. And here, hopefully we're going to launch it here on Newstalk 1040 AM. I filled in at KSFO that launched, national names, stuff like that, like Michael Savage and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying anyone, that's factual, right? And so maybe we're going to do it right here at Newstalk 1040 AM. And we've been in that scene, and I've interviewed Jedediah Bila. I mean, again, I don't want to name drop here. It's not about that. It is about this. You have to have a situation and a system that works for everybody. You can't have people, whether it's anywhere, in Appalachia, inner city, Detroit, Oakland, West Palm Beach, doesn't matter, that feel like they're not part of it. They or there's two tiers of justice. And look, to the extent that the woke movement and maybe, BLM or any of these things, spoke to an unfairness, injustice, we need to talk about that. We need to fix those things. We need to improve those things. I mean, if you grow up in some places, it's a tough deal. There's some tough spaces out there. There's some tough neighborhoods out there. There's, Appalachia's no easy deal either. You can't have a situation. Again, it goes back to the relationship stuff. You can't have a situation where basically, whoever, women can't win or men can't win and kids can't win and kids are the most important thing. You can't have a situation, Riley Gaines, where, it can't compete, right? You can't compete. You can't have a situation where people feel like, if they get stopped by police, they have no idea what's going to happen. You have to have fairness and legitimacy. And again, no less than Laura Ingraham was talking about this. What I've been saying for a long, long time, if you've got issues that are 60%, 70%, 80% that have gone on for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and a political party's been promising these things and then not delivering, it's just, how long, and again, you can say right, wrong, indifferent, whatever, but how long has the Republican Party been talking about the Supreme Court and Roe v. Wade? Well, okay, now you've got a decision that went the other way. Well, at some point, again, I'm not saying the Supreme Court's political or anything like that, but I'm trying to make an analogy. And you have to say to some degree to Biden's credit and that administration's credit, they've been promising the progressive wing, left-wing stuff. And listen, they've delivered on climate and energy and all kinds of different stuff. Now, the country maybe say, whoa, that's not what we thought it was. But what it is you have to have a situation and a system that works for everybody. People have to feel like they've got a chance, they've got a shot, they've got a stake in the system. It's not rocket science. It really isn't. And politics isn't just about celebrity and I don't understand how all these politicians get so rich either. Like that's another thing. And obviously, Comer is looking into Congressman Comer is looking into different and again, I don't want to play it's scandal politics and gotcha and everything like that. I just feel like, and that goes back to Oliver Anthony, rich men north of Richmond. Like here's these people that are super rich that want to control everything. I think that's one of his lines, that want to rule everything. People just want to be left alone, but they want to feel like they have a stake in the game. We are bound by ideals and values in the Constitution. I was talking about to Professor Yu, several weeks ago. Eminent constitutional scholar. He's the clerk for Supreme Court Justice Thomas, and I think he's visiting fellow with Hoover Institution and American Enterprise Institute. And if I got some of that wrong, I apologize, Professor Yu. I'm just thinking fast here. And we have to come back to first principles. And Vivek is very good about talking about this. But what Trump is so good at is just connecting with the normal average person. And I think where Governor DeSantis really falls down is there's the perception that there's oversized influence of the donors and maybe people that are connected with, the Bush team and Karl Rove and Jeb Bush. And Jeb Bush went out there and had a video talking about Governor DeSantis, stuff like that. And yet when Governor DeSantis is on and I'm not saying it's all about optics, but when he's one-on-one, I just can't see Governor DeSantis in a pizza shop with Congressman Donalds and the people there, or the Philly cheesesteak, or the Burger King, or the Dairy Queen, the way that President Trump is, Paul. And I think it's all of it. People, it's not just optics, it's not just performance and performative political theater. It's about, does everybody feel like they have a shot in America? Do they feel like it's an equal playing field, equal justice, all that type of stuff? And is there a connection? Are you listening? Or are we going to have these, aristocracy and the serfs, some quasi weird neo-feudalism? And it's a weird thing. And you're seeing this happen globally. And you're seeing talks about this in Poland, in Romania, in, I believe, if I have that right, in Hungary, there's discussions in Brazil. This is happening all over the place, Paul. What are your comments?
It is. And what else is happening all over the place that we've seen is more of these legal attempts to remove or displace political opponents. We've seen this now in Pakistan with Imran Khan. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he's involved in a legal trial.
Israel, yeah.
President Bolsonaro, ex-President Bolsonaro in Brazil, he's facing legal challenges, and there might be an attempt to disqualify him from elections for a number of years. So, of course, we're seeing that here now with President Trump. And so it feels like things are getting more, I don't know what the right word, a little more harsh, a little more rough, whether it's being able to make money and retain your money, or the way that politics are, kind of like how tough they are. And I don't think people like it. It didn't used to be like this. As we talk about all the time, one of the problems right now, I think one of the problems, we've mentioned this before, I think, like talking about, critical theory and all this type of, that kind of backs some of the woke movement or whatever it is. One of the issues with that is that there's a good guy and a bad guy. And so someone has to be the bad guy. And I think that's problematic. As we talk about, we want everybody to succeed. We want everybody to come together.
Absolutely.
But if you're making somebody the bad person, that's hard to do that. Now, of course, populism itself says, well, the rich people are the bad people, so to speak. But it's a little different than having a group of people that you can easily identify and saying they're all bad. And that's tough. Whereas, people, there are rich persons who support Republicans, and there are rich persons who support Democrats. So it's a little more difficult to do that. So I just think that mentality is problematic for calming things down. And I think people are just tired of the strife,
Well, people are definitely tired of the strife. There's no doubt about that. And people are sick of all that. And I think, too, that, and actually that's a decent segue, no less than Charlie Munger. A lot of people are talking, we're live on LinkedIn here. We're talking about, careers and success and everything like that, entrepreneurs, as well as we're live on, obviously, Newstalk 1040 AM. And we've got a lot of great business people out there, and entrepreneurs and just people in corporate America and working around there right now on their way home. This economy is very troubling. There's some people that are saying that, like, the housing market is frozen. People don't want to sell because they've got these low interest rates. They can't buy another house or move up at the same rate that they had before, if you will. I'm not giving anyone financial advice or any other kind of advice, but there's questions about, is the real estate market going to crash? Where is it at right now? There's also questions about just the market in general. Is there going to be a hard crash? And Charlie Munger has Warren Buffett's partner, I believe, has said that, like, hey, it could get really, really bad out there. There's a lot of people are predicting tremendous amounts of pain. There's people are saying that are opting out of the corporate ladder. They don't want to do it anymore. They want to be their own boss. They want to be entrepreneurs. They want to have some balance out there, so a work-life balance. They want to be able to work from anywhere. They don't want to have to go to the office. Commercial real estate is in big, big trouble right now, partly because people don't want to go back to the office. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on out there. I mean, there's so much stuff that's on the table. I mean, I'm serious. There's some really, really big things. I don't want to, this is the most important election. This is a very important election. And I think it's because of that. And we are coming up on a break here, Paul, but I think it's because of that people understand how serious the stakes are here. And so they don't have time for the Governor Christie's, the talk about Governor Youngkin coming, the Fox News debate, like, forget all this type of stuff, and how many add-on bail stuff with Trump. Like, they want someone that's going to fix this, because most people, like the Oliver Anthony song, are suffering out there tremendously, and it could get so much worse so quick, because there's a lot of debt going on right now. Credit card debt's going way up. Home equity, percentages are going down. Different things happen out there. We got to go to the break here. We'll catch you on the other end of this break, but a lot to talk about. We're going to put it all on the table in the last segment here. You listen to News Talk 10, the John D. Villarreal Show on News Talk 1040 AM, Greater Tampa Bay area. Be right back at you. What's going on, everybody? It's me, John D. Villarreal, here on Newstalk 1040 AM. Greater Tampa Bay area. We love it. We love it. We love it. We're here. We're working with you. Last segment, last little bit here before that 6 o'clock hour on Newstalk 1040 AM. Greater Tampa Bay area, live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Now, listen, there's a lot we're talking about here. We're joined by Paul at Villarreal. And I was thinking about some stuff. I was kind of making some notes here on what I'm doing. And as I'm doing that, I'm thinking about everything that we've been talking about. And really it comes down to this, right? Everybody wants an opportunity to win. Everybody wants an opportunity to win. Everybody wants an opportunity to, live the American dream or the world dream, wherever they're at. But particularly here in America, we have the Constitution. We have this the land of the free, the home of the brave. The land of opportunity. Everybody wants an opportunity to win, and mostly people just want to be left alone. In large part, do whatever you want to do. And what it comes down to, so many of these things. And we're live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube as well. Are we just playing politics and picking winners and losers, or are we creating a system that maximizes the potential and opportunity for everybody? And that's the difference, right? There's, if you are trying to go after equality of result, or you're trying to, hey, we need to promote these people and punk out these people, whatever, or when when this party's in power, we're going to go after the other party. Like it just becomes craziness, right? And there was this article in Newsweek that was just really, I don't even know if I have time to get into it. It's really kind of, in my opinion, kind of out there. But it kind of also was pretty insightful, and not insightful, but revealing. That's maybe the better choice right there. But Paul, do you understand what I'm saying right there? Is it just going to be about politics and who wins and who loses? And that's kind of it goes to Oliver Anthony with the Richmond, north of Richmond, with the control and this neo-feudalism, if you will. Or do we have a situation where, people really have the opportunity to win? Everyone wants to have an opportunity to win, and a lot of people just want to be left alone. Do you understand what I'm saying on that one?
Yeah, I totally do. And I think you're right. It does go to Oliver Anthony. That's why his song broke through to the extent that it did. The song is essentially, look, I'm just a simple worker. I'm, basically crushing myself just so I can go home and drink my troubles away, essentially is what he says. And he's basically, I have to give everything up to the people in D.C., pay them a bunch of taxes, and they're trying to control my life. And it resonated with people because that's how people feel. As you said earlier in the show about the person who lost their pension, I think people feel they've never been less economically secure. They've never had less of a chance at the American dream, whereas there seems to be more push down from various politicians, and people don't like it. And I think that it's straining people. People feel tired of it. And so I agree with you. I think, and you're right, it does kind of have a feudalism, lords and serfs type of feel to it, and nobody wants that.
No, nobody does want that. Absolutely not. And I apologize. I just muted myself for a second. So I'm typing furiously, and I didn't want that to come across the audio there on Newstalk 1040 AM. We're trying to do the best show we can here, but there's a couple things that I talk about there, and I thought about this, and I'm glad that you said that because it just came back to mind. I really want to put it down there, and I want to talk about right now. Okay, John, we agree with you. We see what you're saying. You're making some sense. And we feel the way that Oliver Anthony does out there because I'm killing myself right here. I'm getting behind. I'm not getting ahead. Inflation's so bad. I can't afford eggs. I can't afford. Is it food or is it medicine for some people? There's all kinds of different tough choices that people have to make out there. No doubt about it. And really, so what's the way out? How do we solve this? Well, there's a couple things. The only person who's really addressed this seriously, in my opinion, in the last at least 30 years is Donald Trump at the presidential level. And when you've got all, so many, not all, but so many of the quote unquote rich men north of Richmond, right, that are arrayed against Trump, it sends a signal out there to the voters and the citizens and the people, maybe this is the dude that we need to back. And that's why when someone like DeSantis is cozying up to these mega donors and Fox News and Rupert Murdoch, whatever, people are like, you know what? He's not the right guy. He's not the right candidate. And then you see Vivek that's sort of doing it, Byron Donalds. This is the reason why Trump is resonating. You said in minority communities. You look at the story that is America, and America is a land of immigrants, and what a lot of immigrants have to go through, and the hardships and the struggles, and a lot of Americans, a lot of people in general. This is everybody almost. If you're not part of the elite, this is the point. If you're not part of the 1% or 0.1%, and a leftist, because no less than Elon Musk, the number one richest person in the world, they're going after him trying to make his life miserable. If you're not part of that elite leftist stratosphere, you're punked. You are punked. And it's almost hopeless. And we don't want anyone to feel like that here on Newstalk 1040 AM or the John D. Villarreal radio show. I'm super optimistic. I've always been that way. And that's just the way that I am. And, but I'm also realistic. And so you say, John, well, what's the way out of this? Well, I think, this election is going to be very, very important. It is on the table right here. That's why we need real candidates that are saying real things, not this phony baloney stuff. And it's not just on the right wing. Look at the traction that, RFK Jr. is getting. And they don't want to talk about him. He's in double digits. Look at the traction that Cornel West is getting. And I disagree with Cornel West on a range of things. But there's a level of authenticity to Cornel West. Cornel West is speaking about issues that have resonate with some people. And whether it's Cornel West, RFK Jr., Donald Trump, Anna Paulina Luna, Vivek, when you put it all together, there is a super significant percentage out there, even a plurality, if not a majority, when you combine everything together, that are politically somewhat disaffected, that are not getting their voices heard in mainstream Washington, let alone the corporate media, the legacy media. Now, okay, so what do you do about this, John? Well, we talked about that, but then also, I think it's this. I think part of it is Atlas Shrugged, right? And if you're not familiar with that book, and I'm conservative, almost libertarian. I don't care what anyone does; they don't hurt anyone else, etc., like that. But I do think that we do need good government. And my dad was in government, and my brother's in government, and we talked about that, and blah blah blah. So what does that mean? Okay, so Ayn Rand, famous libertarian, wrote a book called Atlas Shrugged, which is basically like the most productive people at some point saying, hey, I'm sick of this and I'm being taxed too much or whatever like that. And they just went away and society kind of fell apart. That's a super, super oversimplification. And they created their own new society, whatever like that. And I don't want to get into all, the book right now. I'm just trying to, just touch that and go. And so we see this right now. It goes back to and I will refer you back to, the video that I did, a while ago. A 50% solution is not a 100% solution. I'm not one for boycotts, this and that, whatever. But I think to some degree, a message has been sent with Bud Light. A message has been sent by Target. A message has been sent with Disney. A message has been sent with Star Wars, with Marvel, with some of these franchises. People are just like, forget it. Enough of this. A message has been sent with people leaving New York City, people leaving Chicago and Illinois, people leaving California. Parts of California now, I mean, I don't know what's going on. We just had that situation out there in Topanga with the Nordstrom. How do you have a retail facility with this situation? How is this ever going to work? I mean, we have to come together. But at the same time, like, we have to recognize that times are tough. This is not how you run a society. At some point, people have to say, you can't, even if this weird neo-feudalism thing of, the top 1%. And again, I've talked about this before, and I just want to touch on this very quickly and we'll move on. But I, in my opinion, was a superstar in Silicon Valley. And for what I was doing and stuff like that. And then I started, Paul and I started posting videos, about political stuff, and we weren't fans of President Obama and stuff like that. And then all shut down. Was it related? Was it not? There's been a lot. I mean, it looks very, very different in 2023 to everybody than it does in 2009. Okay, 2008, whatever. And even now, like, my credentials are super strong. I've got there's so many different things I can do. I'm not confused. It would be extremely hard for me to break back into law or venture capital or even tech. And that was my big criticism of the tech movement in Miami, because it was like every other tech movement, which means it's super liberal, dude. And conservatives need not apply. And now Mayor Suarez is running for a Republican nomination on what? Are you insane, bro? Why do you think you're basically at 0%, 0.1% in the polls? What have you stood for? Corporatism? Sellout? We're done, bro. We're done with the sellouts on the Republican side. That's what's up. That's what's up, Governor DeSantis. That's what's up, Mayor Suarez. That's what's up, Congressman Hurd. That's what's up, Governor Christie. Look at your polls. You're way more accomplished than me, way more money than me. I get it, but politically, jokes. And I told you this. People are done. Look at Bud Light. We're not going to forget about it. You're not going to, now we're going to do a pro-military campaign. Now the American flag. They showed this video of the Bud Light stand at Sturgis. Desolate. It's over, bro. That brand has destroyed itself. For what? So they can push something? People don't want to be preached to. People don't want to be forced to do something. Get it together. And what I mean by Atlas Shrugged, it's not like the super elite going off and, it's more like you can't have Amazon. Let me rephrase. You can't have online shopping without trucks and UPS drivers and delivering the stuff, or FedEx drivers or postal workers. You can't have, a lot of everything. You can't have houses and mansions without someone building it. If people are like, enough of this, and you see this with quiet quitting, and you see this with lazy, jobs and all this type of stuff. I mean, people are just sick of it. People are sick of being lied to. You just have to work your way up, John. I can't. We don't have any positions open for this level. Meanwhile, you hire 2, 3, 4 other people that that maybe you're way better than for that level. Well, it's because stop. People are tired of the BS. So people, these companies aren't great companies without what? Consumers and what? Workers. So, this is the point. All of these things come together. You can't have, again, what's the choice? The choice is a super elite and everyone else is punked, and you have a very inefficient, unequal society, or you create a system, right? And this is my law and economics coming out, and I'm like a savant. I'm super, super talented on that type of stuff. Got an A as an undergrad in a law school course. I learned from one of the best professors. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You have to have a system and a constitution and constitutional republic that creates an atmosphere and a playing field that maximizes everyone's opportunity, that maximizes everyone's ability. I'm going to reload here. So we may have had some technical information. With this Atlas Shrugged idea, you either have a system where you have the super elite and everyone else is punked, and it's all politically driven, and we see this around the world, and this has been the history of the world most of the time, or you have a system where you allow people constitutional liberties, Bill of Rights, freedom, opportunity, not equality of result, but equality of opportunity, and you create the most efficient system that grows the pie. That's the point. That grows the pie. You can't have an efficient system if I feel like, hey, you can't have an efficient system if I feel like if I get stopped by a cop, it's different than if this person gets stopped by a cop. Hey, if I have this kind of politics, it's different than this person kind of politics. Hey, if I vote for President Trump, I can't get a job in venture capital or law or these other types of places. It's insane. And I've already said this. This is the idiocy, in my opinion, of any kind of discrimination, because it obviously it's wrong. It's morally wrong, reprehensible, everything like that. But it's also economically, every kind of way, inefficient. It's ridiculous. It's like if I'm trying to fill a professional sports team and I say, hey, guess what? I'm not going to, I want a professional baseball team. I want a professional football team, whatever. Half the states I'm not going to go to. I'm not recruiting there. That's idiotic. You don't know where you're going to find talent. It makes no sense. We've got to keep, so again, law and economics. You either focus on production, setting up ways where it's efficient, right? It's basically the economic analysis, public policy, or you worry about speculation. Who likes who, who's connected to who, influence peddling, did you have the right avatar, the right politics? It's all political stuff. Those are inefficient systems. And those countries, societies, empires, whatever like that, they all fail. Roman Empire, you can go on and down the list. Do we want to be like that? Or do we want something different and better? Paul, bringing you on this right here. Do you understand what I'm saying right here? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. And I think that wraps into what we were saying earlier. Look, there's always been recessions, difficulties, social change and all that. But as you're mentioning, this time around, you're having challenges and you can't say anything about it. Or you can't say anything about it if it has to do with a certain politician or a certain party, because then maybe you get canceled. Or if you want to go and relax and kind of get away from the difficulties, you have to go watch a movie we're going to preach to you for 2 hours. So it's more confining now. It's more difficult just to come out and say something, or just to say, man, this isn't very good. That's why the Oliver Anthony thing has hit so big. And it's to the extent where iTunes chart, which is kind of like the modern Billboard chart, he has 9 songs in the top 25, which is, never heard of that.
That's insane. I've never seen that before. That's
totally insane. I mean, that's I don't know if that's ever happened before. People are like, this guy's authentic. He's not perfect. He's not, he's not a political spokesperson, but he's saying something that so many people relate to. And they're just tired of all of this, and somebody's actually saying something about it, and it's difficult to even do that right now. And people don't, like I said, we can handle some struggles, we can handle an economic downturn, but we can't handle where everything is bad and you can't say anything about it. And it's just, as you said, or if you say something, you won't get hired. It's just too much.
It's too much, dude. I mean, again. I've got so many different connections, and I talked to Laura DeBella about this, former Florida Secretary of Commerce, and I think she, I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but it sounded like she was pretty enthusiastic, in my opinion, about doing what we talked about here. And I have so many different things on the plate, and now I'm a little bit behind here. We've had a little bit of a sick household here, first early days of school, and poor Miss Jenner is sick here, so we're a little bit behind on that. But I'm working on, as you know, so many different things, Paul. But I want to start a for lack of a better word, a tech and venture hub here in Sarasota. That's good for basically Florida based, if you will, and everyone all around the world's welcome, if you will. That is going to be okay. It's okay if you're conservative. It's okay if you're moderate. It's okay if you don't care about politics. I'm so sick of hearing about all these causes for, here's my cause, and I'm a venture capitalist. Here's my cause, and I'm a company. Look, that's great. If that's you, that's great. But that can't be a requirement for every single person and every single company that wants to be in venture capital, or if you want to be in law, or if you want, and that's what people are saying. That these and no less than David Brooks finally said this in the New York Times. Are we the bad guys? And I should have talked about. We may talk about that in a future show. And he's kind of like, well, yeah, we kind of are, because basically the elite top jobs are only gotten to if you get into the best schools and you're in certain clubs and you say the right things and whatever like that. And again, this becomes like a political spoils system. And that goes back to Oliver Anthony, rich men north of Richmond. People are done with it. And what I'm saying is you cannot be confused now. The Republican Party has to come together. I mean, this election is so important. Trump's going to be the nominee based upon everything that we're seeing. There is no reasonable analysis, in my opinion, right now. Can everything change? Everything can change. But if Trump is not totally taken out by whatever's going on with all this type of stuff, show me how anyone else is going to be the nominee right now. So if Trump is the nominee, then how do you vote for Biden or not vote over Trump? And then call yourself a Republican or a conservative or a more moderate or anything else. Because you can't say that what's going on right now in America and in the world is moderate. You can't say this is sustainable. How do you operate in California if you're Nordstrom? How do you do that? Or Walgreens or anyone else? Look at downtown San Francisco. It's not working, dude. This is not sustainable. This is just common sense. And how efficient are you going to be as a country if half your population is frozen out of good jobs, or isn't working, or is drinking the troubles away, or high on opioids, or fentanyl, or gosh knows whatever else? We haven't even talked about the border, or environment, or all kinds of other stuff. We need to come together for solutions. Enough of this scandal, gotcha stuff, whatever. And to the extent that Target and Bud Light and all that stuff, people are starting to realize, hey, we have a say in this too. Even if the elites don't want to let us have a say. I don't need to use certain online programs. I don't need to go to, YouTube if there's Rumble or whatever. There's other options now. Twitter, with Elon Musk. I mean, so I think now there's a time for a great discussion and a great choosing. And I think, as you alluded to, Paul, a lot of people in different communities are saying, hey, the Democratic Party really hasn't worked for me. I'm looking for something else. We have got a couple minutes here before we wrap up, Paul. What final thoughts for you?
Yeah, look, just coming back to what you said about California, we know, we have a bunch of relatives out there.
Yep.
And look, I get nervous for them. I mean, it's like, what's happening? Are they going to experience some of this? Are they going to have trouble with the crime stuff? Are they, and you and I both know San Francisco well. We both know the whole Bay Area well. And it's just a completely different thing than what it used to be. And it's unrecognizable.
What it's showing here with Oliver Anthony and what I'm saying with a nonpartisan or Republican friendly or whatever you want to call it, tech hub, venture hub, everything like that. There is a massive pent up demand for something different, something that speaks to everybody. Everybody wants a good life for themselves. Everybody wants a good life for their family. We need to talk to each other, work together, stop this hyper-partisanship. That's part of what we're doing here on the John D. Villarreal Show on Newstalk 1040 AM. We really appreciate the people from Newstalk 1040 AM and the greater Tampa Bay area here, and live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and our audience. We're trying to do things that move the needle, not point fingers. We're trying to help everybody out and entertain you and enlighten you and make your day better. And that's all part of it. We hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thanks so much for listening to me. I'm John D. Villarreal for Paul and everyone here on Newstalk 1040. Have a blessed week. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. See you next time. And I'll try to answer comments offline.